right. Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the June meeting of the Public Art and Cultural Commission. I am current chair, Joanna Haggerty, for one more meeting. The Public Art and Culture Commission, originally called the Public Art Board, was established by Asheville City Council in 2000. This 9-member commission serves as an advisory board to the city on matters concerning art in public spaces. All committee members and staff are participating in person, and just a quick reminder to use your mics so those tuning in can hear us. All right, the first agenda item is, did everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from May? And does anybody have any updates or edits that we need for any of those? We're feeling good? Awesome. Can I have a motion to approve them?
I'll motion.
Great.
Second.
Thank you. And then all those in favor, if you want to raise your hand. Awesome. Great. Motion has been approved. Moving right along, we wanted to welcome our new PAC member who will officially be coming on next month to replace me. He's here in the audience today, Charlie. We're so happy to have him here and bring the expertise that he does to the table. We'll let him talk more about that next week or next month. And there will be PAC-specific orientations, and then clerk's office will also reach out to do all the orientations. So we'll make sure you get fully up to date on everything we're doing right now. But we're so happy you're here today. Yeah, thank you. All right.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll talk about this item a little bit. So our next regular meeting is July 18th at 4 p.m. And there's something that we've been kicking around, which is doing a tour of downtown. Mary Fearley with the Urban Trail Committee, she's a tour guide, has a lot of expertise on the downtown area, had offered to do that tour with PAC. And at the same time, I've talked with Steph a little bit, who is also an expert on downtown, and we have a lot of new planning and urban design staff that have just started in the department. And I think getting a tour of downtown, understanding big projects, revitalization moments, and also stopping and viewing some of the art on the urban trail would be beneficial to everyone. So I wanted to see how people felt about turning the next meeting into a tour of downtown and the urban trail. There were some comments that this is the hottest time of year to do that sort of thing. Very valid, understood. So if you all want to discuss that and think about it, we can delay it until September, cooler time. We're not like on a strict timeline for this, but the date works for Mary and others in the department, so.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
Thumbs up,
Yeah.
yeah. It was our great idea.
Yeah.
And Pete and I talked a little bit about this too, like as people who kind of have done this in the past too, especially for those early people on the PAC, it's just so valuable to go see what's happening and kind of get your hands dirty. So I think that's great.
Appreciate that, Joanne, because that is what we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Is it
next
that simple?
meeting, bring your water, your sunscreen, your hats. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, we'll plan on it. That'll be fun.
That was easy.
We'll meet here. Sorry, will we meet here?
I'll send out communications about that. We'll pick a route and kind of figure out how we're going to go about it. Maybe. Okay, John.
Hello, I'm John Phelan with the Special Events Office, and here to request that PAC adopt the 2024-2025 Outdoor Special Event Guide. This guide has had no changes this year for an interesting year. We have had no fee changes, which would make all the event organizers happy, because usually those are increases. We've had no policy changes. There's really nothing that has been updated in this guide other than a let's see, is this going to go up? Other than a refresh of the front cover and the date change. So I wanted to take you through, let's see how this goes. How many people have reviewed the event guide before? Okay, that's pretty much. Okay, so we can get through this fairly quickly. So we start out with a table of contents. Main key points here are the fees and charges, insurance requirements, our good neighbor policy relating to mitigation of impact and street closures primarily, inquiries, applications, and deadlines section, site plans and route maps, exhibitors and contractor information, sanitation and restroom information, public safety and security, permitting, and emergency medical services and planning. I also have a how to use this guide section here. We tried to make it more fun for people to read through with some symbols. So that little finger pointing symbol is something that might be particularly helpful. And the form links are in a yellow bubble. We also want to remind people that we don't want them to miss any of the deadlines, because once you submit your initial application, there are all these other pieces of the puzzle that come together later on down the line. So we have deadlines for each of those listed here. When is a permit required? Well, it's pretty much always required unless you're using the space as you normally would. So if you're adding tents or inflatables, generators, you're doing any kind of conducting business on public property, you need a permit. A lot of people would be surprised to learn that you don't need a permit for free speech public assembly activity, but we do have a registration option on our website, so you can register your free speech public assembly with us there. We give you some examples of where you can host your event. And we have a continually updated sheet of park profiles to assist event organizers figuring out what's the best space for their event. So mainly most of our events are in Pack Square, Pritchard Park, and Carrier Park. Those are the three primary parks that host events. We have a section on city ordinances and park policies. I won't go through all of those, but we have a lot of them. Fees and charges, this is always fun. So we have application in 3 different levels. We have the basic application with an event of up to 500 people for $100. We have most of our applications come in as a level 2. That's a $200 application fee. That's for any event that's less than 8,000 people, but more than 500. And then we have an application level 3, which would be for the big high wire type of activity that we're looking forward to on Labor Day weekend this year. Anything that has more than 8,000 people. We also have a discounted rate for neighborhood block parties. So for $75, the city will give you 4 barricades, a street closure permit, and a special event permit to close your street for a neighborhood block party. $75 is a good deal. Normally those costs would rise to over $300. We do charge when there's alcohol because we have to write a staff report. We, meaning me, get to write it. And we charge $100 for that, for the time it takes us to write the staff report, and an on-site operations fee. So if your event is pretty large and you need someone here at the park, Pack Square Park specifically, to help with your spider boxes or your water hookups or things like that, you can opt for that fee, and we'll send Kate O'Connor out to help you with your event, or John Fillman when Kate is not available. Property use fees, we go into some fees here for some specific parks that are different than others, like Pack Square Park has a higher property use fee than most of our other properties. Memorial Stadium as well, it's not open yet, but hopefully will be soon. General ball fields and recreational areas are billed separately. Carrier Park has some of those separate items, like a volleyball court and a track that you can reserve as part of your event, so you might need to do that, as well as a picnic shelter. We have street closure, parking, and transit impact fees. Those are great. Anytime you want to close a street, you can pay the city a fee, and we will issue a transportation plan. And I've learned that a lot of cities require events to go out and get a traffic engineer to write up their traffic plans. And that's not the way it is here in Asheville, which is wonderful for organizers because they don't have to hire a separate company to do that for them. We'll do it for you. And for most of our events that are nonprofit, that's only $37.50. This month.
Yeah, with a smile.
Oh, the smile. Yeah, that's right. So whenever your event has tents or structures, you have to have a permit from Development Services. And so that's a temporary use permit. The nonprofit rates are fairly affordable for those. $62.50 is our average fee for that permit. electrical, operational fire, pyrotechnics, all of these permit fees could apply to your event based on what you have going on. Law enforcement. This was changed mid-year, so actually there was an interim change that we did earlier when we went from officer track to roll call. So the police department is using another company now to do their off-duty officer management. And it runs about $100 an hour at a 4-hour minimum for law enforcement. Cancellations and refunds. We refund most fees at about 50% when the event has to cancel. Insurance requirements, of course, risk management wants to make sure that city assets are protected. And so we require $1 million general liability policy on all events, plus additional liability from any safety-sensitive contractors or food vendors and beverage vendors. Good neighbor policy. This is something I reference a lot. It's just because it's always helpful when an organizer reaches out to their neighbors and talks about the event before they hear about it on the news. So letting people know, door-to-door flyers, filling out a form when you do a street closure. There's specific street closure notification steps you have to go through for a permit to close the street, making sure people are aware that they will be impacted by the closure. Talk a little bit about sound amplification. Special events are not exempt from the city's noise ordinance. And so but we do expect that when we permit an event like Downtown After 5, there's going to be amplification that would not be typical of a busker or a sidewalk entertainer or someone that would be doing it under the existing regulation. So we just explained that special events must abide by the noise ordinance, but when we give you a special event permit for Downtown After 5, we expect the amplification is going to be louder. That's the best way I can describe it for you. City properties are not particularly zoned for special events, so that we have to take it one at a time. And the city, if we do find there's a problem with the amplified sound in one area, we will maybe not be able to permit that event again. And so that's at our discretion. We can avoid having to go through any noise ordinance issues just by not permitting an event that's creating a disruption. We have rules on advertising and signage that can be put up, not inside the event, but outside the event. And once you've gotten through all that information in the Outdoor Special Event Guide, you understand the fees and the policies to start out with, then we go into the inquiry form. So the first step is to complete an inquiry form. We'll be back in touch in 2 weeks to let you know that we're ready to take your application. And then we go through the permitting step. The inquiry form is almost a speed bump. It helps organizers think about options for their event before they go ahead and spend the time to complete an application. Let's see what else I can share with you here. We have some deadlines. Our average turnaround time on a special event level 1 is 6 weeks. So we want to make sure that we receive your application no less than 6 weeks in advance. That goes up to 3 months for a level 2 application. So we're looking to plan very early on for these things. And up to 4 months for a level 3. Go up through the deadline summary again. This little pieces of the puzzle graphic I thought was cute. There's little links to each little section, so you can click the link for pyrotechnics and fireworks and get to that section of the guide if you're missing it. We talk a lot about site plans and route maps and how important those are for your application. Site considerations. And all of these amazing graphics I found online. Royalty-free, of course.
Of course.
Some requirements for site plans. Most people aren't getting this far through the guide before they've given up. So, and I can tell from what I get. So, by the questions that I have to ask after we get the application. But we'll keep going forward to transportation planning. So you're going to have an event in a park, but there's not enough parking for 1,000 people. What are you going to do? Well, this form helps you figure it out. And we don't have to open it today, but it goes through some options, some suggestions of how you can get people to and from your event when there's not enough parking, like transit services, bicycling, ride shares, things like that. Parking closures, of course. Every time you close a street, you're going to close the parking on the street, so you're probably going to have some parking closure fees associated with that. We have a page on accessibility, very important. Not so important that I want to skip through it. So let me go back. No, I'm just kidding. It's a really important piece that I hope more events can come around to understanding the value of making your event accessible. It invites a whole new group of people that may not feel comfortable coming to your event. So we always recommend, if you have an accessibility coordinator or anybody at the office that can address people with accessibility needs, that's always great to have, and have that on their website ahead of time so people know who to call when they have a question or a need. Talk a little bit about exhibitors and contractors that might be at the event, and the state taxes, because the state wants to get paid the taxes from sales that are generated by special events on public property. So it's the organizer's responsibility to capture the information from all of their vendors and have that available if the state requests it. Food sales, always important at an event. And from there, we talk a little bit about open flame and food preparation, power and water needs. Of course, if you're going to have tent food vendors cooking, you're going to need a place for them to dispose of grease and gray water, so we go through that. Alcoholic beverages, of course. OSHA guidelines. Sanitation and restrooms, what are required. An event with attendance of 100 or more with a duration exceeding 4 hours are required to have restrooms available for the public. Public safety, this goes into our law enforcement requirements. And crowd managers, which is a state fire code regulation. Any event with 1,000 people or more at any given time is required to have 4 certified crowd managers, 1 per 250 people. So an event with 2,000 people would need 8 crowd managers. And there's a quick test you can take online. Well, it's about 20 minutes, so that's not super quick, but it's really fun to take. You learn a lot about the fires and history that has happened and that has caused injuries and incidents over the years.
Yeah, I've taken it several times, so.
Yeah, in Asheville, you get to take it every year.
Every time.
Every year. We have a 1-year renewal requirement on those crowd manager certificates. All events are required to have an emergency plan, and we have a form for that. This tells us about how we issue the permits, temporary use permits, flame certification on tents, structural anchorage, operational fire permits, and there's a fire performance demo application. So if you're having a fire performance at your event, you as the organizer can't apply for that permit. Your fire performer or fire entertainer needs to apply for that permit separately. So we have a separate application for them right there. More permitting, sidewalk closure permits, races, runs, walks, parades, processions. We're almost finished. Outside agency permits, so Buncombe County handles all the food service permitting in Asheville. A lot of people get confused about that. So it's not the city, it's the county that handles the food and services, and NCABC handles the alcohol. And then last, and kind of least, permit violations. We hate giving them, but sometimes we have to when something really, really bad happens at an event that could have been avoidable by proper planning. And that concludes the review of the Outdoor Special Event Guide. I hope you all found it very entertaining and enjoyable to read through this fast review of the guide, but you can always look through that later when you're bored and looking for something to review.
Can you say, or just talk about how often you update, or like what the process is?
We try to
for
keep
that?
all of these updates to one time per fiscal year. So we're, when something can't wait, we will go ahead and change it in the guide right away, like the roll call officer track situation. But typically fees and charges change in the July fiscal year, and any department changes, those we push off until we get to the new event guide. So we don't want to update this too often so that people are never knowing if they're looking at the right guide or not. We recently had a decision to keep the fountain on in Pack Square. That was only changed in this recent update to the event, or not changed, but that was only changed on our application form, so that the fountain is on all the time in Pack Square. It can't be turned off for events. And the fountain in Pack Square Park down in the Roger McGraw Green, that fountain is on by default instead of off by default during special events. So that was a change Parks and Recreation asked us to make. But it wasn't detailed in the event guide, so the event guide didn't have any changes to it. It was just a piece of the application that changed, whether you're clicking the button for on or clicking the button for off. Any other questions?
I just want to acknowledge what a fantastic job you do stewarding people through this process. I don't know that if you hear that enough, but everybody I talk to speaks very highly
Thank
of you
you.
and the services you provide.
Thank you.
I'm just watching the evolution you've had too, right? As someone who's been producing events here for years too, like you just consistently get more systemized and organized in a way that it makes it easier for people too. It's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It makes it easier for me, too.
I'm sure.
Okay, so a little bit about the request for information for 2025 dates. We're very close, once again, to having our calendar for you to review. I expect that we'll have that by your next meeting. The two events we have here, Symphony in the Park and Goombay, both looking for the same weekend. We'll have to take them through the evaluation process that we adopted recently and see whose score is the top score for that option. But otherwise, we don't have a whole lot of other conflicts to resolve, which is great. So landing on just one event to resolve is wonderful. Normally, we've got 3, 4, 5 events that are really trying to get into the same space. I was just telling Alexandria that we need another park is what we need. We need another premier downtown park to have events. Everyone is really wanting to be downtown in Pack Square Park. But I'm sure we'll work it out. We always do every year, and I'll be back with that result for you next time. And then let's see, the schedule of events through July 2024, I think that was provided to you in the agenda, so I didn't print them out this time. Coming up, we have July 4th block party. The Downtown Association is producing in partnership with the city and Ingalls, and that's coming along really well. The first shindig on the green will happen before we meet next, so that's another great event. This Saturday, we have the Star Tribe event coming up. I think you like that one, right, don't you? Okay, good. Well, I'll be there at the door to give you some money and get into that awesome dance party. There's no Ola Asheville in June, but they're asking now about October. So hopefully we'll have Ola Asheville in October this year. I can't think of any other highlights to mention that's coming up between now and the next meeting. Oh, Yoga Festival. It's called the Love Shine Play Festival, and it's previously by the name of Asheville Yoga Festival, and they do a great job. They do most of their events in private most of their activities are held in private venues, but they have their marketplace downtown in Pack Square. I think that is everything. Do I have to ask for a motion to adopt?
Well,
Or
it
to-
says we're gonna vote on it next meeting, so if
Next
that
meeting?
works for you,
That's
then
fine
we
for
can give
me.
everybody a chance to flip through it if they want.
Okay.
Or, I mean, if people feel ready, we can just go ahead and
Well,
make a motion, but.
The 2024-2025 event guide is currently published for July right now. So is it possible that the
I
committee
feel comfortable
feels
making the
comfortable?
motion.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the schedule of events through July 2024? All right, great. Easy peasy.
Okay.
And I think that's you, Carly.
Yeah, well, really, it's you all, this next option.
Would be, it's the outdoor events guide that we just.
Thank you.
Oh.
My bad, sorry about that.
Yeah, so this is discussion, work session for you all. I know that the Policy and Procedures Group got to meet earlier today to talk about their working group schedules and start with some tasks and to-dos. So I wanted you all to discuss and talk through things, ask questions if you need clarifications from me. I know that the Urban Trail Working Group, we're still waiting on the Urban Trail members. Their meeting was canceled this month, so we'll have to check in with them at their next meeting and figure out who they want to nominate to that working group. But I figured you all can maybe meet, discuss after this meeting, and just generally talk about times that will work for you moving forward. But I'm going to open it up to the rest of the commission now.
Yeah, just to make a couple comments, we met today, and I think what's going to be important, what we did is, first meeting was pretty short and sweet. It was naming who's going to be the chair, Katie's going to be the chair, and to start a work plan on what it is that we're going to try to take on. We're each taking on responsibility for doing some research to be able to come together and figure out what we're doing with bylaws, et cetera. But I think, one of the things that haven't been on PAC now for a while that I feel real good about is we did the offsite where we looked at our strategic priorities. We know what they are, but now we really need to drive these committees so that the work really gets done, because we don't have enough time in here to be able to do it. So the question I would ask for the other groups would be, have you named a leader? Have you named a frequency of when you're going to meet, and what's your kind of game plan to just try and get a hold of it? I mean, it's going to take some time for us to be able to get into the groove, but I think the more we can get clear on all that, then we can spend part of these meetings going forward on reporting out from each of the committees and have the work done there versus kind of looking at each other work, et cetera. So I just add to what Carly was saying, that we'd like to get some discussion around where are the groups in that process. Are you there yet? When can you get there? And to try and put some urgency on that.
My working group is working on getting together, and so I think this week, maybe next week.
I think next week, and I thought we were going to publicly arm wrestle for the lead.
As long as you record it on video, right?
No, to be quite frank about, Rachel was very timely in her response to the email. I was not. And then I said I'd be lead, and I think it was part about guilt, but if you really want that, yeah. So we're planning to meet soon.
I like it, we've got things right.
So it might be.
And
less
is Shirley the other one on your
Yeah,
group?
I pulled it up too.
She's,
just
Okay.
look at it.
she's on that email, but we haven't heard from her yet.
We'll reach out to
I'll reach out.
Okay. Are you comfortable with coming back with kind of a rough cut, first pass next meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because we have an excellent plan.
Just a helpful tip for all the groups. The agenda is set on the second Thursday, so the Thursday before we meet. And so if you want to get something on the agenda, that's the deadline.
Yeah, that's good heads up. Yep.
And I met with the Policy and Procedures Group earlier today and let them know that, I'm happy to come to the first few meetings of these working groups and help with clarifications and just organizing. I'd like to not come to everyone's meetings for the rest of the year, yeah. But I think for these first few, it'll be helpful for me to be there. So just so you know.
So I guess you kind of addressed our committee, Penelope and I are in the Urban Trail Committee, so we're just waiting to hear about who our other member is going to be
Yes.
represented.
Yeah.
Okay. So once we
And I
hear
will
that-
connect you, and then Charlie will be the other PAC member on there,
Okay.
on the Urban Trail Committee,
Okay,
or Urban Trail Committee Working Group.
so to be continued.
Yes. Yeah, maybe we can check in. There's some Urban Trail Committee members here today. So maybe we can check in about that after the meeting, if everybody has a couple minutes.
Good idea.
Okay.
Are there other discussions? Do we feel good about that, everybody? Okay, cool. Because we don't want to talk about what you kind of discussed in your first meeting, really, or, I mean, I guess you kind of mentioned it already.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
cool.
was really just getting organized.
Just kind of doing the
Figuring out
initial.
our cadence.
That's great.
How we're splitting up work, that kind of thing.
We decided to prioritize working on the bylaws, and so what we're doing between now and our next meeting is finding other examples of Public Art Commission bylaws and other examples from other advisory boards in the city, and kind of what that process is going to look like.
That's great. Okay, well then I guess it's back over to you, Carly, for some unfinished business and updates.
How about show anyway? Okay. Okay, this will be a very quick update on the Art Deco masterpiece, but we did have 4 semifinalists and went through interviews with the selection panel on Tuesday. We had 4 really strong, interesting takes on this reinterpretation of the Art Deco masterpiece. There has not been a final selection made quite yet. We do have a front runner, but are going to ask a few more questions and just make sure that everything is set to make that final decision. So next meeting, there should be an announcement of the finalist, probably maybe even before then, and that will come to PAC for approval to move forward with contracting with that artist.
Can you speak to in that 4 semifinalists as to, do we have local teams in there?
Yep,
Percentage of local teams?
it's all local teams.
Okay.
Yep. And then, I don't know if you all saw, there was some social media buzz around this, but there was a spring 2024 urban trail cleaning and maintenance that was completed between June 3rd and 8th. And so if you get a chance, I know we're going to do our tour next month, which was great timing because we'll get to see everything looking nice and clean and shiny. But there was washing and waxing of the bronze sculptures and plaques, and then maintenance of other materials, sanding off rust, touch-up paint, that sort of thing. And we had some nice before and after shots taken by Davis Restoration, who did the work. And it's pretty remarkable how good everything looks now that it's had that care. And then this is a update on boosting the block and the PAC Square design. This was requested at our agenda setting meeting, and Dana Frankel, who is managing the boosting the block project, sent over a couple bullet points. So there was an RFP process with some unanticipated delays, but City Council did authorize staff on May 28th to contract with the community facilitator team, which was the first step of this process. And there are 2 Durham-based Black and women-owned firms with extensive experience in facilitation, leadership, capacity building, and project management. It's Illumined Leadership Solutions and Bennett West Consulting. So they're going to be key in making sure that things stay on schedule, for being that liaison and connection between the Block Collaborative and the city, and making sure that we stay on track with goals for the project. The city is also contracting with J.D. Ellison and Company to serve as the community coordinator, so providing that hyperlocal support and insight, along with administrative support for the Block Collaborative. So that's a separate contract that the city has, I believe, finalized. Is that final? Have you heard, Alexandria? No, not quite yet. Almost there? Okay, great. So project kickoff is anticipated for early mid-July, and there's a link there if you want to dive more into the details with some of that. And the PAC Square design project still has not kicked off, but it will this summer internally. We're going to get all our ducks in a row for that. And then the anticipated date for sending out an RFP for a firm to work on that next phase of the design for PAC Square Plaza will most likely be in the fall. And once again, this is a lot of text on this slide, but this was an update from the project manager on the Jake Rusher Public Art redesign and reinstall project. So the original piece had to be redesigned to be lower, with the top cube fully closed and the floor surface gaps minimized to prevent a hand or a foot from passing through. I believe there was a young child who fell, and risk management was like, you know what, I think we want to beef up the safety before, letting this move forward. And so in April 2024, there was a contract that was made between the city and the artist and a fabricator to make the unit a little bit safer and meet those requirements that risk management wanted them to meet. And so in June, 90% drawing set addressing all those design concerns was submitted. I think there were some questions around spacing, orientation, and the footer locations that they're working out now. And the fabricator anticipates that the sculpture will be ready for review at the shop June 21st. And then upon sculpture review and receipt of that final drawing set, the final installation will be scheduled. So that's a little background on the delay of why that's not there quite yet, but I think these are all good updates and will overall make the product better and safer. And there's, you can see the image, the color image of the original design and the redesigned. This is from the 90% set that was sent in by the project manager. So you can see the netting that's connecting the two pieces now, and that top cube is covered on all sides so that a kid can't climb over or fall off that top or higher level there. And then finally, an update on the Broadway Public Safety Station public art. So last year they had an amazing turnout at the various tile making and glazing events that were led by Alex Irvine, who was the artist selected for this project. Earlier this year, the Broadway Public Safety Station was officially opened and the police and fire departments moved in. So construction drawings for the harp sculpture were adjusted based on the actual built condition of the site and then submitted for permitting, and that's where they've been, I guess, until just last week when they finally got a decision. A lot of back and forth, and the plans were not approved because the location was really close to a dry creek that runs along the west property line. So they are now trying to find a new location that's going to meet all those safety and accessibility requirements that were there and also be out of that flood area. So I think they're looking at a location at the southwest corner of the building, and the goal is to get that location approved and the sculpture underway in the summer.
Still the same site? Still on the same?
Yeah, still on the Broadway Public Safety Station site. I think here's some. These are from some of those tile making events from last year. That's the playable harp, some images of what they're anticipating that to look like. And then this was sent by the project manager showing that the original location and the new location that they're trying to see if that will meet the requirements. Okay. Anybody have any other questions on any of those updates that I ran through?
I think I got it, Carly, but did you say that decision to move that Broadway Public Station piece was just recently, that message was delivered to the design team?
It was like last week, yep. I think they'd been doing a lot of that back and forth, asking questions about the location and making sure that that wasn't going to work. And permitting decided that it wasn't going to work because of its proximity to that dry creek bed. Okay, and it is Joanna's last meeting. And we have has everybody had a chance to sign? Everybody signed a card for you. Thank you so much, Joanna. I don't know if there's anything you want to say, not to put you on the spot, you won't have to, but.
I don't know. I think it's been like 7 years, so this feels like it'll be really different to just not be a part of this. I've talked to Carly and Pete that I would love to stay connected. As someone who works in the arts world, maybe I can take some of the contracts now that I couldn't or whatever. So really excited. I'm just so thrilled with all the work you've done and watching the systems grow. Really excited for all of you here. Everybody seems hungry and happy to kind of jump in. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of sadness for like, wait, the work's about to get started. But I'm really excited for who's here and who's going to carry this forward. And you guys can always reach out any thoughts or questions you have or projects you think I may be good to participate in. So I know Pete will do a great job. So
Thank you, John.
thank you
Great.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we'll do our regular, just around the table, if people have events or projects or things they want to update the commission on, now's your time.
So I'll go. The Arts Council's Arts Build Community Grant opens on June 24th. So this is for arts-based community projects, specifically in underserved communities. And the grants are $1,000 to $2,500. So please share with whoever you think might be a good fit for this grant opportunity.
What else do we have?
So YMI has opened their corner spot, so Suites A and B in the corner of Eagle and Market, and there's a beautiful traveling exhibit that's on display there. It's called Aiming for Freedom, and it's a part of the civic season. So that's an event that's going on around the country that's bringing attention to our civic responsibilities for our communities and as well as the nation. And it's from Juneteenth to July 4th. That's the civic season. Our reception's going to be on July 5th, Friday, July 5th, our first Friday on the block, and the show will be up till around the 20th. So please come by.
Anyone else have anything exciting to share right now?
You want to come dance with John? You can come Saturday night to Star Trek
Yes.
from the City Hall.
Love it.
Not my scene, but I'm super gracious and loving at the front door.
It's my scene. I love it.
I've seen you in a few glow up things at events before, for sure.
Is it really just a big dance party?
It's a dance party with more like house type of techno, maybe a little bit new age music.
Could do that.
Yeah, they usually have a good light show and a really good sound system.
Very good time.
Very good sound system.
That's Saturday.
That's Saturday. It's there's advanced tickets online.
I think it's sliding scale online.
Sliding scale, yep, and then they charge the full price at the door.
Awesome. That sounds fun. Do we know if we had any public comment submitted beforehand? Okay, so we had no public comment submitted before, but we will happily open the floor for any additional public comments to be made at this time. If you do want to come up and speak, please make sure to state your name, any affiliation, and speak into the mic. Would anybody like to speak? All right. Okay, I will now adjourn the meeting unless there are any objections. So adjourned.